Hello, my name is Rhonda K. Kitchens. I'm your academic librarian, and I'm going to go over how to do research for your Sociology 201 project on social problems and a few other tips that will help you. Under this video, I have developed a linked table of contents. So if I'm talking about something you've already heard me talk about or something you know, go ahead and skip it and go to the next section. And at the end is a reminder, if you have questions, always ask your librarian. This is what this slideshow is going to cover. The library catalog, databases, A to Z, PRIMO, OneSearch. They're kind of the same thing, but not at all. They do different types of work for you, and they contain not everything at one time. So often it's helpful to use them all. Research question keywords. You may think that's kind of simple, but sometimes, especially when you're getting to topics you're unfamiliar with, or you're trying to find things in scholarly and peer-reviewed journals, sometimes the keywords are a little bit more of a struggle. And once you get those keywords, what are you going to do with them? That's right, you're going to use a fabulous search strategy. Here I'm using 3 of the ones I use more than one time a week. They're even effective on Google and other places. And finally, I'm going to do a research demo over 4 different platforms and show you the class guide that should be helpful and should have the table of contents that's linked. First, let's look at this part of the library website. We'll go to the real thing at the end, but right now I want to show you why I'm discussing these things. As you come to the library's webpage, you will see library catalog, databases A to Z, and PRIMO OneSearch. Like, what are these and how do you use them? Well, if you just jump into this, it's a great general search, say like Google, but you can do different things to it. You can also jump into the library catalog. An advantage for that would be that it has some limiters and things that you can do to adjust your search results from the get-go. But you could just get there and fix it. But the big thing to remember is this and this, while they are the same thing, they do not contain all 160 databases. In fact, you would have to search those individually to get to them all in most cases. Do you need 160? Probably not. So we're going to talk about the things you do know. Now, if you leave a big community college, you go to University of Washington or any of the other larger universities, including Harvard, you'll have a database A to Z list. It's just an alphabetical list of databases. And there you'll find you have 400 to 700 or something like that. So 160 is modest, and it's a great place for you to learn how to do research in a more modest set of things. Now, this library catalog very specifically contains the things that are actually in the library right now. The books, the print books you can check out, and also it connects you to ebooks. Those are the ones you can read 24/7 from any device. They're device agnostic, newspaper, journals, and more, plus some databases. I will say 20–25% of the databases you can access from there. Others just don't have a way for this overarching search to get to them. And for those, you'll go to them individually. Now, databases A to Z has journals. That's right, you could go directly to journals and then search the journals, or you can search for journal articles. So that's why I wrote this out sort of awkwardly, because I want you to know when you hit that paywall and you can't read the New York Times anymore, we have a way around that paywall. And you need to use us to find those. If you're reading The Atlantic, you've already read your 5 articles, come to the library. We have subscription services to get you past that paywall. And we have over 150 databases, so we have quite a good. We even have magazines and journals that are specific to children or people in high school. So we have quite a bit of things to choose from. Now, the PRIMO OneSearch is our Google search, so to speak. It's jump in, put in your one thing, and just get into that search and start swimming. So you could actually start your search from the main page in seconds rather than going through all these. And these are your options. Now, I'm going to go over let's talk about the research question keywords. You probably have something put together that sort of works for you, but sometimes it's like really broad, too small, and sometimes you can actually pick a topic no one's written about. What do you do with that? You do a little bit more research. It may be that someone wrote about it. They may be using different words or subjects or ideas. But if you have something genuinely no one has written about, it may not be a good topic. But always ask your librarian, because often we can find ways to find them. So keywords really are the way you unlock things. There's two ways students end up in the library frustrated. One of them is finding the right database, and we're going to help you pick that. And number two is the keywords. I can't find the keywords to do this. Or a keyword has so many meanings, say like nuclear, nuclear family, nuclear power, etc., that it might be just problematic, and you have to pair it up in a search strategy that will make it work. Well, first of all, use words from your research question. Your research question cell probably has some keywords, some very important words that are useful. Now, take those words, find their synonyms and antonyms, because that's right, when you do research, you're just not trying to find something to support what you're thinking about your research question. You're also finding things that do not support you so that you can work with research to determine what the ultimate truth or conclusion that you may have. You can't find a conclusion unless you also confront things that don't match what you believe to be true. And sometimes you have to find things to believe. And research is a great way to start finding your own personal opinion about different topics. Taking those keywords, find their alternate tenses and spellings. Trauma, traumas, traumatized, traumatic. Make sure you find all those tenses and spellings to make sure you get all the articles, because this is not always fixed for you. Even in Google, they don't always fix that for you either. So spell out or use the acronym. Suppose you're working on the Affordable Care Act, also sometimes called Obamacare. You will search ACA as an acronym. You could search Affordable Care Act and, yes, Obamacare. Search them all to find the most articles about your piece. Now, use keywords and subjects you find during research. Now you've found the most awesome article in the entire world. Go through it and use it to do more research. See what kind of things it cited. See if it cited other places. Google Scholar is excellent for that. We have a great Google Scholar video under 3 minutes. It's underneath our databases, and I can always send it to you as well. Another thing you might want to do, especially when you're beginning to work in a topic you're not that familiar with, and you're trying to get a grasp of the keywords and the ideas that are important, there's sort of a way to do that, and it's called word mapping. You could use Edwordle and put in your unfamiliar topic to come up with some different ideas. Now, how would that work? I'm going to do a quick little demonstration to tell you how that would work. Suppose you found this particular article. This one does happen to be easy, but I just want to use it for an example. So I go in, and it has an HTML, and sometimes you'll have a PDF, and you can search all to find that particular, select all to it. But what if I just, let me skip the piece. All right. You want to do better than just the abstract. Remember, the abstract describes the article, it's not the full text of the article itself. And you're doing research, you're going to be using full text. You'll go to Edwordle, copy in your full text, generate a Wordle, and you will have this. This is the Rolling Stone, so it's going to be a lot more simple than the one that I will show you. But over on this side, get rid of the ads, you'll find the words list. It'll choose the words that were used the most. You can also move the words around. So if you're trying to figure out how to put these in order and develop a search question, a search strategy, and keywords, this can be very useful. This is one that I put together earlier, and it's from a scholarly article that was inside of Proquest, just to give you an idea of what types of things that Proquest will have. We'll look at it later. And you'll see, of course, it has a lot more words, and I have the ones that are the most important. I might use those in my search strategy as keywords, and in some cases I may use it to restructure my reference question if I need to look at it, narrow it down, and other things. And you can see here I was able to start separating it out to look at it different ways. If I'm looking at voting rights, John Lewis, the American South, the people who did not agree with him, which perhaps would be McConnell and Stevenson and Barber. I didn't look those up in detail, but those may or may not be the antithesis of what John Lewis is trying to do. And I want to find people who support Obama and people who may not, because that makes my research piece richer and it also gives all points of view inside my piece before I reach a conclusion. If I'm trying to look at other things, I might look at the point of view of protesters that are trying to work on voting rights, the moral issues around voting rights, the legacy of John Lewis, all sorts of things. I could take my question and narrow it down and focus on some things that are very useful. And this is going to help me sort of brainstorm through the keyword and search strategy process. It kind of gives you a visual to work for. And if you're doing a presentation, it gives you a beautiful little visual to use. So next we're going to look at search strategy. I keep saying search strategy. What is that? There's more than 3, but I'm showing you these 3 because to me these are the total power moves. You can even use these on Google. So we're looking at voting rights. We also probably won't vote, voted, votes, and voting, right? How do we do that all in one search? Well, this helps you out with suffixes. You put an asterisk to stand in the place for the suffixes that follow. So if you take a word and its many different versions, find the place that it becomes most common and the asterisk after it. So VOT asterisk will get vote, voted, votes, and voting. And sometimes something as simple as rights. You're like, oh, right or rights. It actually could find you more material, especially when you have a slim number of search results and you've tightened up your research question. These sorts of things can really make a big difference. So right is the bottom part, or I'd like to find a right. I talk about the rights of voting. Put the asterisk here and you get both rights and right. The next part is phrase searching. Most people understand the concept immediately, but they don't understand why it's important. I use this probably a few times a day. You take your phrase, and it should be a naturally occurring phrase, not one that you've sort of put together, like voting rights, like environmental, global warming, things like that. And what you want to do when you put them in quotations is you make them search all together. That's right, you search it all together. If you just search voting rights without quotations, you'll end up with search results like this. You have voting, 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 and you have it alone. It's not with voting rights. It may be voting in the first paragraph and rights in the last. By putting it together, your search results will look like this. Voting rights, voting rights, voting rights, voting rights, over and over again. And that is a total win, especially when you have too many search results and you want to pinpoint what you're working on. A final way to really work with this is using Boolean logic. The and means that you search for voting and you search for rights, and your search results look like the blend of these two things. You've probably done this many, many times, not understanding what it is. When you're using and in a database that doesn't have that offering to you, you capitalize it, A and D, and the search will know what to do. Or is a good one, especially when you have synonyms. Suppose you have marketing, advertising, and branding. Well, in a way, they're not the same thing. Sometimes they're used in the way that might be useful for research, that they sort of mean the same thing, but not, if you know what I mean. So here, if we're voting or vote or election, we can search all of those at one time. Instead of like going at your search a few dozen times, you can take the things they're like and put them in one string. This is very useful for many different things. One of my favorites is not, capital N-O-T, not. I want to find articles about voting, but not the election part. These are two different types of things, so you might have some benefit in getting rid of those from your search. N-O-T, not. I use this frequently in Google. It's represented by a negative mark in front of the word. And usually I'll do a search in Google and I'll have negative Pinterest because I don't want Pinterest results in my Google things. So these things will help you across the databases and also with some common search engines that you will find online free. These also work in most of our subscriptions searches that we'll kind of show you soon. From there, let's give a look at, now you have these results. What results do you use? One of the most important things, I'm going to jump down here, is relevance. Does it actually meet the needs of your reference question or what you're working on? Or does it represent a support or not support, which are both valid. You need them in your work. And next, rubric. That's right, rubric. What does your assignment want? Does your assignment require scholarly articles or peer reviewed? Does it want newspapers? Does it want things, primary or secondary resources? This is going to inform your search and where you search and what you keep over what you discard. Research is not like a Google approach. You know, 93% of the people don't get past the first page of Google. Research requires that you do so. That's right. You do so. In fact, one of the databases I'll show you, Proquest, it actually does it. The search results are sometimes best about 15 down. I do not know why, by the way, but it's a curious but true thing. So evaluation, a lot of times when you're working in college, you'll come up about these methods. The CRAAP test, critical thinking, why, what, who, when, where, which is like a really simplified way of looking at it, and SIFT. Now, the difference that SIFT is, it's going to be like a true crime piece. You're going to investigate everything at every level. In the real world, this keeps you from being embarrassed when you cite an article that has been withdrawn from publication. Because guess what? It's still in that publication, and you'll see it there, but unless you research it, you will not know it was retracted, laughed at, and the person's may have some sort of scandal. Now, with CRAAP, you're worried about things like currency, and claims and evidence fit into SIFT. I'm just trying to show you these are all kind of the same thing. They're different frames of mind. Now, claims and evidence. If your article claims the sky is red, it needs to have evidence, the research, the person, the place that this information was found. If it does not, its credibility nosedives. So pay attention to that. Even a good secondary article that's not a scholarly piece will refer back to where that information was found. And in terms of things like blogs or people's personal opinions, this is going to be missing. So that piece may not have the value of something that does provide these things. Currency is important sometimes. It's important differently. Suppose you are working in nursing, you want the past 3 to 5 years. If you're working in law, a little bit of forever might be useful for you. You want to know what happened, where these ideas came from, and how to connect them all together across history. Authority and accountability. You want some people who are connected to something. In the case of a peer-reviewed article, you want to know what college or university or think tank or whatever it is they're involved with. You'd like to see accountability in terms of ethics statements. I am writing about this particular thing, but I'm not making money from proposing the solution. You also want to know about the purpose. As soon as your heart starts pounding and you have a reaction, and this is where these two kind of go together, stop, pause, and ask yourself, why am I getting this emotional pull from this research piece? And it may be written to be emotional. In fact, sometimes these emotional pieces change us. But in terms of research, you really need to look at that. Look at the claims and evidence. Look at their references. Check on their authority. Now, if you're using the SIFT method, and this was created by a University of Washington person, and again, it's more like true crime, being Nancy Drew, Sherlock Holmes, instead of being someone receiving the information, you go at the information. Like, how could this be helpful? Well, if you are looking for something that is against your topic or even for it, you need to know, is that valid? You might find out the person who was saying that the particular thing you're looking at is not true, has no validity, has a currency issue, there's no claims and evidence, they lack authority, and they're not being accountable to their piece. Think about that. So investigate the source. Who wrote it? Who published it? Find trusted sources. Look for the bias. Look at the pages that are about retracting information in academic journals. That's right. Search the title of your article. Trace their claims and their quotes and back to the original context. They could have lifted a whole sentence from something that does not support what they're saying it does. So these are all the heavy lifting and the truest research that you'll do. And if you're doing summaries or annotations, these are a beautiful way to frame them in a way that does not engage you in plagiarism, because when you do summaries from this point of view, you're actually providing your own words and own point of view on these ideas. It's a beautiful framework to work with. Now, We're going to look at the research and the demo and the class guide. I'm going to be using the topic voting rights, you may have noticed. I'm going to take you to the actual library catalog, not just the little image of it. I want to show you the Associates program at EBSCO. I'm also going to show you how to search every EBSCO database at one time, should you choose to do so. I'm going to show you the Proquest Research Library. This is a great general database. If you walk out of here having a vague amount of skills in different types of research, if one of them is the ability to search Proquest Research Library, I believe you will do well as you move on. And I'm going to show you global issues and context. This is a database that sort of is curated, all of its full text, and what you see is what you get, and it puts things together for you. So what this means is sometimes it's not going to have the things here or here. It's like the library catalog. It's going to be kind of light, but across the things, but pretty useful. It is, in fact, easy to use. And if you're working with a rubric that says, you need one scholarly article, you need a newspaper article, you need a multimedia video, you need a photo, something like that, this is the place to go. So now I'm going to do some demos very quickly. To get to the library, go to bigbend.edu. You can also go to Canvas. In your Canvas course on the left-hand side, you should see a link to the library. Other than this, go to Academics. Sometimes I'm really great with these drop-downs, and click on Library, and here we are. So you know I've been talking about this line right here, which is one of your most important lines in terms of research. I'm going to go to the library catalog. Now, I could have gone into PRIMO, and guess what it would look like? Let me show you what that would look like. You could have gone there and typed in voting rights, and instead of this, you would have seen the following. So essentially, going to that PRIMO all-in-one search on that front page would get you here. Now, the reason you may have gone here is because you want to start working on this. Tweak your results. That's right, use limiters to find something. If you're looking at things that are just held by the library, select this. You'll see immediately, book, book, book is available online. When you click this, it will give you some options for databases to choose. You should be able to get to them and read them 24/7. If it does not connect, please ask your librarian. And we have these all over the place. It's here, for instance. You can ask us 24/7 to help you out. Getting to the full text of ebooks is actually quite a common question. Suppose you're just looking for articles. You can search this. Just remember, it doesn't search all 160 databases, but what it does is pretty awesome, especially when you start working on it. So when you go to this available online, you'll see a section that will allow you to get to the full text. Again, if it does not resolve, reach over and ask a librarian where it is. As you're reading through these, sometimes you'll see it's very, very broad what I decided to look at, and maybe I need to look at this particular Voting Rights Act. Maybe my issue is election law, and maybe I'm going to tamp that down and bring John Lewis in and go for a law and legislation piece in the South. You see how you can use your information to find other information. So this is a rich and absolutely wonderful place to start, as long as you make sure you're looking for the full text, and you'll see oftentimes it's all here available for you. You will be able to do a lot of your research just from this area, but I want you to know it all. So I'm back to databases A to Z. I've selected for A so I could find the associates list, but I want to make sure you know that we do have databases by subject. So if you see sociology, psychology, business, criminal justice, etc. here, it will take you to a list of the best databases for that area. You don't have to guess. If you go over here and search voting rights, you're really not going to find anything. If you know the database title, Proquest, Research Library, Opposing Viewpoints, this is what you use this to find. So I'm going to go to the Associates program source, and this is specifically put together to support community colleges. So the reading levels and the topics are pretty crisp and fresh. I'm going to go in here and type voting rights. I have a lot of options on this page, and I do keep it for those who like to use it. I like to go in broad. This, of course, is not something you would use for your topic, but it's a piece of before you narrow it down. Over here, you'll see link to full text. Make sure you select for that. If your professor asks for peer-reviewed or scholarly materials, Please select this, but understand as searching for peer-reviewed and scholarly journals. They are composed of many things like letters to the editor, some opinion pieces, and the scholarly journal article. If you don't understand what those are, please go to identifying a scholarly article, piece that I have, or take the time to ask a librarian, because we'll be glad to show you, because once you see it, you will not unsee it. Now, suppose in your rubric or the things that you determine to be relevant about your topic is the past 5 years, you can use the left-hand side to also adjust for relevancy. Now, this may or may not be happy for you, but when you're using the EBSCO databases, you can go up here and choose databases. If you're struggling, and frankly, often I am, I go up here, I select all, then OK, and I search every single EBSCO database in one time. I don't jump back and forth to databases A to Z list. I stay here in EBSCO world and fix it. Now, if I'm doing research on something like business issues in regard to the environment, I would come here and build my own database. I would select business source. I would search, look for science, general science, and other things of that nature, and build these things together. If I'm looking at issues in terms of poverty and how, let's say, different things are dumped or moved in those neighborhoods over others, I might look at family studies, sociology, and also business and things of that nature. So I'd see both sides, because obviously this sort of procedure has some benefit to someone. And you shouldn't write, I should say, research that doesn't look at all sides of the piece. And this is also a great way to find all those pieces. And if you haven't narrowed something down, awesome. If you can't find keywords at work, this may help you out. So I'm just going to stay with Associates program for this, but know that that option is available to you. You can also select a field, but the general one is usually pretty good for a start. You can restrict it to the abstract, but remember the abstract is a summary. It's not the real article. Make sure when you're writing your research, it comes from that. Now, when I look at this, I usually have an make sure I pick this, HTML or PDF. The PDF is the actual image of the piece. We just are trying this Flipster digital magazine if you want to go read it in full and beautiful color. This is especially gorgeous on smaller devices, but it is device agnostic, and you read it on your phone or your desktop computer. So when you go into this, it's going to give you some different things. You see how these subjects are? If you need them, pull these out and use these in your research as well. Maybe your keyword package is not that strong. Suffrage may be a word you never thought of to use in this term. So this is how you find those pieces to help narrow down your topic, and then how to define your topic to put in your search strategy. Do you feel what I'm saying here? I am hopeful you do. So this is Rolling Stone, and it is not a scholarly journal. It is a secondary resource, and generally speaking, when Rolling Stone states something, it does let you know where they got it from. It usually does have a strong pack of journalists, but as the reader and consumer of research, you need to make sure that is true within that particular article. Now, I'm going to go to Cite. You're probably going to be using APA in this course, and you may not know it well or at all, so this is a great place to start, but remember to copy and correct. So we're up to APA 7th edition. You would copy this and correct it. Immediately, almost looks pretty correct. So just check your APA 7th edition style. Go to the Writing Center. They have an APA 7th edition handout that you can copy out. You can also ask me, any librarian, or anyone at the Writing Center. We're all online and ready to help you. Okay, so that takes care of this. The next thing we're going to look at is Proquest. Well, certainly you can select P for Proquest here and find it, or type in Proquest here and go to it. I have put over here under our Need Help. That's right, we're always here, Ask a Librarian. I've put over here the main, most meaty, most common things that will help you in your research. Proquest Research Library is right here, so you don't have to go through all of that. And that is true. Those 3 particular databases could get you through a great deal of your work. Proquest, in this form, covers things from astronomy to zoology. It's very complete, covers a variety of disciplines. And when you're searching things like this, it is kind of like a beautiful thing to see how things appear in various disciplines and what different things are important to other people. This also makes your research richer, helps you narrow down your topic, and helps you find things that are unique and wonderful. As usual, I just pop in, I throw in the big word, and then I go into my research. I always use that left-hand side, but do know these options are available to you. I want to make sure that it's full text. What I see is what I get. I also might want to make sure it's the past 12 months. I will select that here. And this will clean up some of my search results. You'll see here how we have voting and rights. Remember how I was talking about when you search them together? I have a billion search results. So something that's separated like that is not going to be that helpful to me. I'm sorry, I may not be able to bring this over for you. So here, I can just go back up and fix my search. And I'm going to put it in quotes. And that means that voting rights will come up as one thing. And these are more likely what I want. It's roughly half my search results. And then I could do things like and Don Lewis. I can put him in quotes so that it searches that name specifically. I brought myself down to 18,000 quotes. I've lost my full text, so I'm going to put that back in. So when you change your search, make sure you adjust it in the ways that you need. So I still have many, many things. And you see the Ask a Librarian is also here if you'd like to use that. I'm going to select for the past 12 months. And now my piece looks like this. This talks about business, FGA. I wonder what that stands for. Remember with acronyms, you can search the acronym and the full text. If you connect it with OR, that'll make your search really good. Okay, so we'll look at this particular piece. This is a blog or podcast. These are wire feeds. Now, if you're looking at the document types, you can get rid of some things. The wire feeds are like AP and rooters and everything, and sometimes a wire feed gets reproduced in a lot of different newspapers, mostly as is. Sometimes it will be a little bit fixed up for you. But let me sort out relevance. You can do that. Peer review, source type. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to pick exclude the wire feeds. I'm going to pick exclude blogs, podcasts, and websites. I'm going to get rid of reports, and I'm not going to use this in this particular case. I'll apply it, and my search results will then change to show things that might be more appropriate for what I'm working for. So when you click on the title, it's going to take you into a multi-tab page that has a lot of richness for you. Sometimes there's a PDF section and other things. This is the full text. These are the things that you could copy and use to find keywords. This is probably too brief. Over here, this is one of these nice things, because when I say database, I'm really talking to you about Netflix. Just think about that, because Netflix is searchable. It has categories. It lists things in different ways. If you like this, look at this. And it's a collection of digital information. This thing does have videos, but it has newspapers and other things as well. So in a way, this whole procedure is something you do every day and are exceedingly comfortable with. Proquest, I would consider to be the Netflixian database. Because, hey, did you love this article? Look at these related articles. How awesome is that? And it also will give you some other search and indexing terms. Now, like United States, well, yes. When you're doing voting rights, it could be an international thing. You could search for them in Australia or France or other places or the United States. So if you're getting a lot of voting rights from different places, you can use the advanced search to drop them off. And that's right. And or not. And I could put and United States or not France, whatever's messing up my search. Here, let me kind of go back. I just want to make sure you know where the citation part is. In many of our databases, not the EBSCO one, the citation thing is just some quotations, which makes it handy between the different databases. So in this case, I'm APA 7th. Remember to copy and correct. Do not copy and paste. And if you have any questions about APA 7th, we also are doing some webinars. Ask the Writing Center or your librarians will be glad to help you out. Because, as it turns out, we love citation. Probably the same way you may not yet, but one day you will. So from here, I'm going to go to the curated database, and you're going to see a big, broad difference in what it does and how it does it. I'm going to go to G for global, and we will see global issues and context, and we'll see a very colorful database. The first thing this database does is go, hey, if you don't have an idea, we have ideas. So it's full of social issues. And I chose this over opposing viewpoints. You can certainly choose that one as well. They're very similar. But this usually has an international take. So if you're looking at your social issue and you want to compare how another country did it or talk about other countries in context of your social problem, this is going to be a great place to go. It also covers the United States. If you have not picked an issue, you will see so many different issues. In fact, let's see, this one has, let me bring it over, through 674. And a lot of times these are narrowed down a little bit so that you can reliably work on it. Here, I'm going to go up. I'm going to do voting rights. Now, what you see is what you get here, so you won't see me selecting for full text because it is full text. I don't even have to think about it that much. I'm going to put this in here because some are not. Let's see. That's right. Did you see that? 2 are not. So, this talks about leadership in the United States and Peru in terms of voting. That is the refrigerator. Sorry, that scared you. On voting rights, election day, voting acts right. It's going to have a lot of primary and secondary sources, so it's going to have law and legislation. You might have to add things to this. You'll see this is broken out. And remember, looking at how to evaluate things. In some cases, your rubric will want 2 of these, a few of these, some of these, and things like that. So this has them separated out already. News being kind of a newer type of form. Your academic articles are going to be a little bit older because they have to go for a peer review process and also get accepted. So this will also have websites, and these are vetted so they can be a little bit more credible than ones you may find on Google. It also has statistics. It has things, especially if you're doing a presentation that's visual, you'll be able to put together a package really easy. You can also search for things like John Lewis, just not the problems themselves, but trying to figure out things about that person. And in this case, I should have put a quote around the person's name, because in the world, it may be a larger piece. Think about the co-water, and I'll put in voting. And we start finding things are a little bit better. So understand, when you come here and do your research, you may not put one word in that fits. You're going to change your research ideas. You're going to look at different things in places. You're going to make your topic larger and smaller. You're going to find things about the topic that agree with your question, disagree with the question, fuel your question, or make your position troubling so that you have to research and find other things about who or what created that particular position. So it's a rich and wonderful environment. So always ask your librarian if you have questions. If we don't have the answers, we will find some way, someone, someplace that does. This is Rhonda K. Kitchens, your academic librarian, and I'm here for you. Reach out.